Hi, I'm Garbreak1, and this is Midgardia's Creator Corner. I'm here today with Banana Chan. How's it going?
Hello, thanks again for having me on the show.
Oh, I'm glad to have you back for it's gotta be like the fifth time.
Oh my gosh, has it actually been 5 episodes?
It's four or five, but I'm always glad to talk to you.
Oh, same here. I really enjoy these talks.
Me too. Um, so why don't you tell our lovely viewers a bit about yourself and what you do?
So I'm a tabletop role-playing game designer, a board game designer, and I also own a board game and RPG publishing company called Game and a Curry. And some of my latest games have been on John Should Blend the Banquet Hall, which won a couple of Emmys. I have worked on Revenant Society with Sevenfold Limb. I have also worked on games like D&D, Van Richt's Guide to Ravenloft, a bunch of Pathfinder books, and Betrayal at House on the Hill, third edition, and Betrayal at Mystery Mansion, which is the Scooby Doo variant.
Very nice. I I keep meaning to buy Betrayal at House on the Hill, uh, third edition because I know that you worked on it. But it's like $90. I'm like, when am I gonna play this? But
Oh my god. It's
uh,
now $90?
Canadian dollars.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I,
Yeah.
I live in the cursed country with the worst currency.
Oh no. Well, one day we'll sit down and we'll actually play the game. Because
Hell yeah.
I have it somewhere, but I accidentally broke the box. So it's
That's
probably
okay.
now worth less $20.
If you put your signature on it, that'll bring it back at least half of that. So
I don't know about that. I don't know if a signature would be worth another $20, but hey, I'll try and fix it with some tape.
yeah,
It'll be
there you
fine.
go. Tape fixes almost everything.
Yes, exactly.
So how'd you get into the tabletop design scene?
A lot of things. So, how much time we got? Like
A
a few
lot.
minutes. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I went to art school, and that's sort of where I think I got my love of storytelling. So I've always been really interested in telling stories. Really excited for that. But while I was in art school, I was studying video art, and I didn't really know that like games could be a field. I played video games, but I didn't really play any tabletop games until later. And so once I graduated, I started going to a bunch of tabletop gaming conventions. Previously, I was volunteering at like Comic Con or working the booth at for like a video game company or something like that. After graduation, I started meeting a bunch of people at tabletop conventions, and that's where I learned about LARP. So I started off like playing board games and LARPing. So at the same time, doing both of those things, I got really excited for board games, and so I started a publishing company with my partner Herb, and we just wanted to like see what it's like, right? Like publish our friends' games because we were interested in like helping them out and also like, seeing what the process is like. And on top of that, in parallel, I was doing a lot of LARPing. And initially, I, always had the idea of like LARPing being like this thing that was very much fantasy based. And I didn't know that there were like other types of LARPs, right? So my impression of LARP, which I'm sure is like similar to a lot of people's impression of LARP when they first, hear about it, is boffer campaign style fantasy. And I wasn't just really interested in that until like I discovered Jason Morningstar's Juggernaut, and all of these other games that were like themed around different genres and had mechanics that didn't really involve buffer unless it's like unless it's something that you wanted to add to it. A lot of them were very like intense in terms of emotional drama, interpersonal relationships, things like that. And so from there I think that's sort of like what curated my RPG, like tabletop RPG experience, where I was just like, okay, like this is the type of LARP I want. This is the type of LARP I like. Is there anything that's like that for the tabletop? And so at the double exposure conventions, that's sort of like where I learned more about like other types of tabletop role playing games aside from like D&D and Pathfinder and Shadowrun even, uh, Paranoia. Like I started learning about all these different types of games, some modern, some from the last like 30 years, 40 years, and just sort of like playing a little bit of everything. And that's how I got into the industry.
Nice. Man, I want to play Paranoia again so bad. Every
No
time I
one,
played it, it's been a riot.
no one will play with me anymore because of that one time. I was just really annoying to the GM.
That's like half the game.
Right, exactly. Thank you.
We some of my friends and I played Paranoia through the chat client J Paranoia at one point, and I started repeating the GM's narration in my thought bubbles until he dropped a piano on me.
That's hilarious. That's how it's supposed to be played.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
the game. It's not like it's not serious. It is super goofy. Your clones come in a six pack. Like,
Yes. Yes, exactly. And your goal is to just like go through your clones. It's not
yeah,
supposed to like be like, oh, I'm gonna, stick with one clone forever. Like you're supposed to go through these clones. Why else would you have six of them?
exactly. They give them to you to use them. Thanks, friend
Yeah,
computer.
yeah, exactly, right?
God, the last time we played, we were like trying to diagnose a wayward machine of some sort with like biological goop dripping out of it. Spent 2 hours, never figured it out. Turns out it was a fridge. We asked the DM afterwards. Just like, oh yeah, it was like a
Oh,
fridge on wheels or something. Just like, great, yeah, that makes perfect sense actually.
oh wow. Yeah. That's really funny, actually.
Paranoia is just incredibly good, is what I'm saying.
It is. It's so good.
I also really want to hit people with boffers again. I haven't done that in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I've only done like a couple of boffer LARPs, but every time it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's all I've done, unfortunately. But like
Mm.
they were foolish enough to entrust me with a two-handed axe, so
Hey.
yeah,
Again, if it's there as a tool, if it's there as like, a part of the game, then you have to use it.
exactly. Mechanics don't exist to be ignored.
Exactly, yes.
Uh, I I I have not played much of your stuff, but I have heard about a lot of it because, like I said, I think this is the fifth time. Um, One was that anthology of LARP scenarios. Uh,
Yes. Would you like to see an annotated version of it?
Heck yeah.
Okay, so I just annotated one of these. Oh, it's a bunch of googly. Oh, I should have said, for anyone who has trypophobia, look away now, because there's
Good
a bunch
call.
of googly eyes.
Very
Um,
good.
Thank you. So I've been annotating a bunch of them because some of our backers they asked for like annotated versions. So it's just like I don't know. We're just like scribbling. I'm just scribbling through these
Nice.
pages and stuff. But very excited for it, and very excited for our backers to like finally get copies of these.
I would love to do a Lovecraftian short film, but like all of the freaky eyes are googly eyes. Like everything else is perfectly straight. It's just
Right?
there's googly eyes on everything. You
Yes,
pick the
it's so funny.
Necronomicon off the shelf and it's just yeah, like that.
It'd be so funny,
Yeah.
but also terrifying.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like nobody in the film acknowledges that like they're just googly eyes. Everybody's just like,
Right.
Jesus Christ, this is horrifying. It's just like bleh.
Yeah, so terrifying.
Then there was the sticker book boarding school thing. Boarding school
Yeah.
book with stickers rather.
Oh,
Which
Demos Academy.
yes, Deimos
Yes.
Academy. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh yeah. Zhongsha, blood in the banquet hall?
Well, in the banquet hall. Yes.
Yes. All right. And forgery I think was the most recent one. The art school
Yeah.
horror Bona Demon one.
Oh, wait a second. Wow, it actually has been 5 episodes.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. Right now, I guess like Joshua and Suburban Consumption, those are both out. Damos and Forgery are in production as we speak. So waiting
Nice.
on the printer to get those two out. And yeah, other than that, that's
I apologize for forgetting like
a
half the
lot.
names, but
Oh no, no, it's totally cool. I make too much stuff.
yeah, every time I'm in a game store, I'm just like, hey, somebody I worked on, or somebody I interviewed worked on that. And, like half the time, it's you.
Oh, oops.
It's all good. That's the opposite of a problem.
That's really nice, but also like I feel like I'm taking up a lot of space on the shelves.
There's, I mean, hey, there are certainly worse things that could be on those shelves.
Yeah,
Could just be, old World of Darkness.
that's true. Good point.
Dark times. I have a deep soft spot for like ancient tabletop RPGs, which you mentioned earlier, like playing some of the old stuff. Like
Yeah.
I've got Smallville RPG somewhere back there. It's the one I usually point to.
Smallville?
Yeah, like the show with Clark Kent as a high schooler.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was an
I didn't
RPG.
know that. What?
Yeah, by Margaret Weiss Productions, way back in the day. It's super weird. You should look into it. Like, you don't have physical core stats. Your core stats are all based on your feelings about various virtues, like justice, truth, valor. Like, yeah, it's right
What?
up your alley. It's the same
I
system.
love this.
Yeah, right. It's the same system as the Leverage tabletop RPG, which also exists.
Okay, I gotta look this up first of all. Okay, Smallville TTRPG. I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna come back to it. I'm gonna try and get a copy.
Hell yeah.
This is very exciting for me.
Yeah, I got a buddy to like dig this up out of the back room of the comic shop he works at because they just still had it for some reason. I'm like, I'll take
What?
that off your hands, thank you.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah,
Good call.
yeah. I'm a sucker for licensed games. I would love to get my hands on like the D6 Ghostbusters game, but that is
Mm.
expensive. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, IPs definitely make a game a little bit more expensive.
yeah, because like you can't reprint them after a while, so they're just
Mhm.
almost entirely lost to time. Like I have a Serial Experiments Lane tabletop RPG book, sort of. It's like
Yeah.
1/3 TTRPG, 2/3 like episode guide. But like that's never getting reprinted, ever.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild. Only recently I saw that there was like a Star Trek GURPS
Wow.
book. Yeah,
Yeah, that does sound familiar now that you mention it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's funny because it's like an interesting license. It's like a very specific license that was used for I forget which one it was, but yeah, I saw it the other day and I was like, "Oh, okay." That was a thing.
Yeah. There's been a lot of Star Trek RPGs. Like I have one book from the last Unicorn Games version of it.
Oh, wow.
It's not the core book. I think it's like the Vulcan source book or something. Because I found it for $5 at a convention. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Okay.
That's pretty cool.
I'm a bit of a hoarder. I'm like you can see behind me.
Oh, it's not
Yeah.
bad at all.
It's, yeah. I've seen worse. But yeah. Um
It's blurry in the background because there's a lot of stuff behind me right now. It's all junk.
yeah, I had to choose between blurring all the junk and not being able to see any of the shelf, and I picked the shelf.
Good call.
And you can see my cat sometimes. That's
Oh,
Canon right
cute.
there in her little ramen box. You can see her
Oh,
ears, not much else.
oh, that's adorable.
Yeah, I think her head's right up against my bed actually.
Oh, I see her head. Yep.
Yeah. She's not blurred, she just always looks like that.
Oh, it's just like a huge fuzz ball. That's
Oh
why she
yeah.
looks blurry.
Yeah, she's super fluffy.
So cute.
Yeah, she's pretty good. Um what is like you've done a bunch of really specific like art housey kind of stuff, but like what is your ultimate dream game to design?
Oh, that is a good question.
Hardball questions time, yeah.
Honestly, yeah, this is a really hard question to answer because I feel like I'm making the stuff that I'm already
I mean, it's okay to not have an answer as
excited
well.
for.
Like, not
Yeah.
everybody has the white whale.
I think like right now, my focus has been shifting a little bit more into screenwriting. Screenwriting, like writing books, writing stories. So that's sort of where my head's at right now. I do still get excited for games and stuff, but I think that like the reason why I'm shifting a little bit is because telling a story sometimes it can be a little bit I mean, each form has different function, right? So um, telling a story through a game doesn't necessarily have the same weight uh as like a screenplay. If I wanted to do like, if I wanted to talk about specific themes and, talk about like specific topics, then it could be a little bit different. So that's sort of where my head's at right now. But ultimate dream thing would be to have like an immersive space, sort of like a Meow Wolf type space. And this will never happen. This will be something that I'll never be able to make. But I would love to see it happen if someone else could make it, or like, if they want to invite me on to make it, that's really cool too. But like have this immersive space that's just like each room is a different set of horrors. And New York has done this in the past, where they used to have this thing called Dream House, or was it Dream House? I think it was called Dream House, but they also had the flip side, which is called Nightmare House. And I could be totally messing up the names, or sorry, it was Dream Factory, and then it was called Nightmare Factory for Halloween. And I thought the Nightmare Factory was interesting. It was okay, but it could be more nightmarish. And so I think, like, uh, ideally, I would like to have something that's sort of like that, and mixed in with there's this show called Channel Zero. I've probably already talked about this before, but like there's this one season where the protagonists go into this haunted house, and this haunted house is just like appears overnight, and it appears like in the middle of like the suburban street. And each season it just like moves around, and
Huh.
no one knows where it comes from and whatever. But when they go in, it's like this haunted house. It's got like, these weird things going on. It looks sort of like an immersive art installation, but then the murders happen, or like the, weird things happen. And so um I think that would be something that I really want to make, but I do not have the funding for. So pie in the sky.
Except for the murdering part. We don't do
Except for the
that
murder.
at Banana Chan's Nightmare House.
Right. No, no, we totally don't do the nightmare part, or sorry,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
murder part. Yeah, yeah. It's just a very normal immersive installation.
That does sound pretty sweet. I should probably watch Channel Zero at some point, but it's also the name of one of my favorite comic books, and I can't break that association. So
Oh.
unfortunately, I'm stuck this way. Um, man, like horror is not usually my genre, but there has been a lot of good horror TV in the past few years. Archive 89 or something like that.
Oh, Archive 81, yeah.
That's the one. I was very close, but
Yeah.
I got through one episode and it was super weird.
Yeah, it was really good. I feel like I would've the ending sort of tripped me up a little bit, but, like, the rest of it felt very solid. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like, that kinda style of horror, like, those themes, those topics, just like the topic of, like a few themes come up, right? Like, wanting to do the thing that you love doing, but also needing the money to do it. Like, that's something that, I
Yeah,
think comes up a lot in the stuff that I enjoy.
and it comes up a lot in our community.
Yes, exactly.
Every day of my life, I need money. What is this?
Right, yeah, exactly. It's just very much like, it sort of, uh, highlights capitalism in, like, a way where it's like, it's not really even like, I feel like it does critique it, but also is just like how do we manage as creatives, right? Like, how do we do things as creatives? And obviously, we need the bare necessities. We need, like, money to live and eat, and, like, help take care of our health, right? Um, but then, like, how do we get to a point where it's like, you're no longer doing something that you hate doing day in, day out, in order to survive, in order to, like, make the thing that you wanna make.
Yeah, and it's hard. Um,
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm lucky that my partner has a day job and that they like me a whole bunch and that I get paid to write stuff on
Oh.
2 Minute Tabletop. But yeah, it could be a lot harder for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a rough life.
Yeah.
It says the guy who was just talking about spending a bunch on Magic the Gathering, but
I
you
if
know,
you if you love the thing, then, do the thing.
yeah. Uh, is there anything else you'd like to talk about while you're here?
Oof. Let me think. I like how before the show started, we were talking about the metaphysics and wellness fair I was at. It's still like so fresh in my mind right now. That's like all I'm
I
thinking
mean,
about.
we can run through some of that again if you want. I don't. Probably shouldn't talk about.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not
That we should run.
monetized anyway, but like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think well, okay, so this is sort of like related to games, right? Where it's just like this is stuff that could be useful for sometimes. So the reason why I go to these things is not just for, my pure weird fascination of like people and how they interact with one another, but also, I go to like um different events just to like see if I could get inspiration for stuff later on. So as an example, like, tarot card readings, like what are the mechanics behind like a tarot card reading, right? Like how do you do it? um and I feel like there's a lot of there are a lot of different things that I could definitely learn from in terms of those spaces. uh like even when it comes to like pendulums and like how do we randomize, like that could equal to like how we randomize, you know uh a storytelling thing or whatever. Like I feel like there's stuff there. It is uh it's a lot of inspiration. Just need to pick out the things that are good for like the story that you want to tell, and the mechanics that you want to use. So that was very interesting to me, very exciting, very weird. It was all weird.
Yeah, and like
But I enjoyed it.
previously on the website formerly known as Twitter, we talked about Conspiracy X and its Zener cards mechanic for psychic abilities, like that kind of stuff.
Yes, yes. Yeah, like the Zener cards, like I feel like those are just really interesting, right? Like it's really interesting to use them as tools for storytelling, as tools for gameplay. Like what the Zener cards, those are specifically for Exquisite Crime, that Sen and I designed for this was a while ago, but I think it's now starting to get released digitally through Hunter's Entertainment. But basically, the game is you're a whole bunch of psychic detectives and you're trying to figure out, a murder or whatever, like a crime, right? And the use of the Xena cards come in close to the beginning where you are determining each other's like characteristics. And so um, you would have like a whole bunch of Xena cards, and the person that you're talking to, like another character, also has like a bunch of Xena cards in front of them, and you choose one. And if the person guesses which one it is correctly, then they would take the card, and the card would have two options: if they guess correctly, and if they guess incorrectly. If they guess correctly, they get like a specific type of characteristic for their character, and it could be something like, "Oh, you come from a long line of psychics," or whatever. But if they guess incorrectly, it could be like, you're a charlatan, you're here with these other psychic detectives, and somehow you've made it this far without getting caught, so good luck.
You're the guy from
um,
Psych, yeah.
right, exactly. And so that's how we used it for character creation, and we also sometimes like throw in the little symbols all over the place to use for end game stuff, where you could use your Zener card to vote that you want this outcome for the murder, or you want this outcome or whatever. And so we threw it into the game like throughout the place. And yeah, like the use of them like historically is just like so interesting, and it's like it's not accurate at all, but it's just so fun.
And they're
um,
aesthetically very interesting. Like they're
yeah,
distinctive. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the aesthetics really like, that's a huge part of metaphysics, just like the aesthetics, right?
You gotta pack a bendable spoon in there. Get all the
Oh,
psychic stuff.
oh, that'd be so cool. Just like a psychic spoon, though I don't want to get, sued by.
Oh yeah, right. He is actually really litigious. I'm gonna go back and bleep out every mention of anything specific. Um, what have you got in the pipeline right now?
So right now, the Revenant Society is the next game that is being published by Van Ryder Games. The Kickstarter is already over for that, but it is available now on GameFound. GameFound, that's what it's called. Yes, GameFound. That's where it's available for pre-order. And the Revenant Society is basically about you as a revenant playing in either setting, which is either 1910s Paris or 1920s New York, and you've been brought back to life to stop a shattering event from happening. And the shattering event is done by a culprit who is somehow related to your death or your murder. And so throughout the game, you are solving your murder slash death if you weren't murdered, and the second thing is trying to stop the shattering event from happening. And if you do not succeed in stopping the shattering event in the first night, then the time loop restarts, and you have to wake up back again and try to do the same. Try to do something different, but the day is exactly the same. And so you're encountering probably the same people unless you go somewhere else. And yeah, I think that's the entire game basically. You have like 4 loops. If you don't complete the 4 loops, then your character is stuck in limbo or not limbo, but stuck in this time loop forever. Um, and yeah, if you do complete it, then you go off and have a happy afterlife.
There are worse places to be stuck in a time loop than 1920s New York. I will say that, like 1930s New York.
Yep. That's actually really funny. Yeah. Yeah, you're not incorrect in that. Unless you want to change up the setting, you could put it into 1930s New York.
No, well, this actually sucks. All right, I'll solve my murder. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think you also have a game called No Context in the works.
Yes. No context. It's a party game by Jason Slingerland and I, which is already out in stores. The full name is actually Mr. Levenstein Presents No Context, which means that it uses Mr. Levenstein's art, and so it is a party game. And did I already mention that it's published by Skybound? It's published by Skybound, in case I didn't mention it. But basically, players are trying to charade their way through using pictures. So you're trying to guess another person's target image with other images that they say that they produce, right? So you can't use words, you can't point at stuff, but you can say this picture looks like this picture, and this picture is like this other picture, but this picture is not like this other picture. And you have like a tableau of pictures, right? So like the other people are trying to guess like which one you're specifically talking about. It's very goofy, very fun, and it is now out in stores.
Nice. You have quite the range of material. I will say that.
Going to mass market, yay!
Yeah, the deep dark personal horror stuff does not quite pay the bills as well, but it is really cool.
Thank you, thanks. Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, unless it's like maybe a screenplay in horror, then it might do a little bit better. Or if it's like a horror book, it'll do better. But yeah, in terms of games, it's very niche. Unless it's Betrayal, I guess, now that I think
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. Betrayal is huge, actually. I mean, it has
Yeah,
three
yeah,
editions and like expansions for each, and a Scooby Doo version. So
right, exactly. So
only,
unless it's Betrayal.
yeah, like only the best games get a Scooby Doo adaptation. Quite frankly.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Scooby-Doo Hero Clicks, Scooby-Doo. There's others, I'm sure, but you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Scooby-Doo Uno, I'm sure that's a thing,
that's gotta be like. There's no way that's not.
right? Yeah. Monopoly.
God, there's Monopoly for everything. I,
Yeah, there really
you
is.
know, people collect Monopoly editions. People are just like, yeah, yeah, I have every edition of Monopoly. And I'm like, why? Like, they're not.
It's,
Monopoly's not that fun, man.
do they know it's the same game?
I I don't know. Like, somebody I follow on X the other day, posted a thing. It's like, name your favorite tabletop RPG, movie, and board game or whatever. Multiple people said Monopoly, and I'm just like, but what? It's like, you can say you don't play board games very often. That's fine. Like,
Mhm.
anyway,
That's an
that's
interesting choice.
yeah. Somebody said Monopoly D&D edition as well. I'm just like, again, there are other games. There's other D&D board games. Like,
Monopoly D&D. Is it a troll? This sounds like a troll.
it's it's the site formerly known as Twitter. I am never really sure.
God, this does not sound real.
Like, this is
Wait.
not me messing with you. I'll promise you that. But like,
Huh.
yeah, and like everywhere you would buy
Favorite
RPGs has board games too. So yeah,
their favorite game is D&D Monopoly, not D&D.
they're well, D&D would be in the TTRPG category.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Understood.
Although yes, the thought of somebody who would rather play D&D Monopoly instead of actual Dungeons and Dragons, that is a little horrific. Uh,
I mean, I'm sure they like it for something that we're just not understanding
yep,
or
and
seeing.
I should be open and accepting and not judgmental of other people's tastes just because they don't match mine. But also,
I have no judgment towards Monopoly. I'm sure I feel like it's actually like one of those, and I haven't played Monopoly in a very long time, like over what, 25 years, but I feel like maybe, and this is a big maybe, if we were to replay it now and actually play by the rules as stated, it might be a very good game.
I'm not holding my breath, but like I would consider giving it a try. Maybe even the D&D version.
What if the D&D version is actually incredible?
I know I almost bought Monopoly Overwatch Edition just for the little miniatures it comes with.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
I remember when Overwatch was cool.
Wow, yeah, that was not that long ago.
That
Like
was
5
like
years?
five
Was it
years,
5 years
yeah.
ago?
It wasn't
Yeah.
when Overwatch 2 came out, I'll tell you that.
Oh gosh, that was half a decade ago. Wow.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. Well, that was a horrifying brush with mortality, which puts us right back on track with most of your games.
Thank you.
It's been great talking to you, as always.
Yeah, it's great talking to you too. Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
And there are links below to go follow Banana on various social media sites and all that. And yeah, have a good night, everybody.
Bye.